Communicating your professional skills, really what you want to do when you're in an interview situation, or if you're on LinkedIn, or any other situation where you're trying to let people know about you, it's really promoting your own value, what we call your future value. It's all based on your skills and your accomplishments, and you really want to have it as your future value and not so much as a look back that a lot of people do. A lot of people look back and talk about their past, and you can leverage your past, but you talk about it in the context of the future. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. Okay, so I've been facilitating meetings and part of the job seeker support for a very long time. There used to be an opportunity to do elevator pitches and introductions. We don't get to do that virtually so easily, but I started to realize they all kind of sound like this. I've got a gazillion years of professional experience with legacy tools such that I'm absolutely qualified in every skill that your company is moving away from. Working for you, I will share my vast array of old and outdated knowledge to help you grow your organization. A lot of us talk about our skills in the past. I have done this, I have done that. And what we are kind of hoping or thinking is natural is that the person that we're talking to or communicating with will get it, that they will understand, well, if you used to do it before, you're going to do it for me again. But a lot of people talk in the context of skills that are kind of old and maybe a little outdated. And so think about maybe the next time you do an elevator pitch, or you write about yourself on LinkedIn, or you update your summary in your resume, you really want to think more about the future and less about the past. So you really need to assess yourself. You need to assess your professional skills. And as I was mentioning, we tend to have a sense of looking backwards. We don't discuss or highlight the skills that we're going to bring to the next employer, or the ones that the employer needs. We like to talk about ourselves because we know what we've accomplished. We've been proud of it. And so that's what we like to talk about. And so we really need to assess our skills so we have an understanding of what we can do to apply that looking and moving forward. And we often have a hard time looking at ourselves in the mirror, and we have a hard time really looking at ourselves objectively. It's just human nature, right? Think about it. Even when you're trying on a new outfit, you got to ask somebody else, do these pants make me look good? So we have a hard time doing it ourselves. And we certainly, even with our career, can ask others for their opinion. But don't be afraid to assess yourself. Don't be afraid to assess your skills. You really need to be as objective as possible. And if you don't promote to the people that are hiring, if you don't promote to the hiring managers and the recruiters for the things that they're looking for, you can't know how to stand out from the other candidates. So if you only talk about things that you're interested in that may not be as interesting to the hiring professionals as yourself, you're not going to differentiate yourself from the competition. The competition are the other candidates that are applying for that same position. And in an aggressive job market like now, there could be 100 or 200 people that are uploading and applying for a position online, and you want to stand out from them. If you don't promote those needed skills, you also may shortchange yourself. You may not actually promote and earn your actual value. And so you may land the job, and I hope that you do land the job, but it might be one that's a little bit less gratifying, a little bit less professional fulfilling. You may earn less money because you're not demonstrating your full capability to the needs of the organization that's going to hire you. So you really need to promote all of your skills, the ones that they're going to be interested in. So do that self-assessment. Now, a lot of people say, I'm going to follow my passion. And Mark Twain was fond of saying, find the job you enjoy doing and you'll never have to work a day in your life. And if you can achieve that, terrific. But sometimes that creates a very narrow focus. It all depends, of course, of what your passion is and what you're interested in. Really, if you're looking to find a career that'll matter, don't just think about the things that you do and that come naturally. Think about the things that challenge you. Think about the things that you return to over and over again professionally. Things that challenge you, that attract you, even ones that frustrate you, that really get you thinking. Because that perseverance is something that really is going to be more interesting to you and more valuable to the hiring professional, the one that's going to hire you. So you may not always be able to find the job that you love, love, love doing, and you won't work a day in your life, but you'll find one that you'll really be enjoying and challenged by, and you'll have a very fulfilling career. You'll certainly never be bored. And you'll be learning more things. And hopefully you'll be more professionally fulfilled. And it doesn't matter how much time you have left in your career. If you have a couple of years or many years, really take this kind of mindset to heart. So to do a self-reflection, reflect on your job description to do a self-assessment. Think of your current job description, if you're currently working, or the one that you recently came out of, because your job description will have a lot of information about fairly recent and current skills. You'll find it easy to identify those skills because they're tied directly to your experience. And so these are the things that you'll want to be able to talk about, your professional skills. They're right there in your job description. Also think about the degrees you've earned, and maybe even more importantly, the certifications that you earned. There are a lot of people that may have earned degrees maybe 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It shows that you're accomplished, that you put your head down, that you do work. But certifications will be reflective of more current learning, trends that are more current. Thinking back, I graduated from college, well, 40 years ago. It's funny to look back. 40 years ago last month, and got my first job 40 years ago next month. But all those skills, the programming languages I learned and whatnot, they're not used anymore. So you can't always rely on just those, but certifications I've gotten along the way have been much more important as I've moved through my career. And start writing down your professional skills related to your job, and list them as SARS. It's called Situation, Action, Result. And this acronym has had other names as well. Some people call them CARS, Challenge, Action, Result, or STARS, Situation, Task, Action, Result. Regardless of the acronym you use, I happen to like SAR, start listing them as that. So instead of telling a hiring manager that you're proficient at something, that's just a bullet point, I'm good at this. Your SAR is a bit of a story that really discusses how you've accomplished using the task. I'm going to talk more about SARS right now. So you're going to want to use SARS. You're going to want to use them on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, and even in the way that you answer questions in an interview. It becomes very important. And if you're not very familiar with SARS, or you haven't crafted any, we're going to give you some examples. So you start thinking in terms of SARS, and here's what the situation, action, result is. And again, it could be situation, task, action, result, PARS, problem, action, result. And here's what it is. It's really a technique that you use where you can describe all of the important information about using the skill in your job and the accomplishment that you've gotten from using it. So you really just are telling people how you're using skills, not just a bullet point, I'm good at such and such. And the situation, in the situation, action, result, it sets the scene. It says, here's what went on that caused me to take these following steps. And here's the challenge that I had, the problem I had to overcome. That's what the situation portion is, the first step. The next step is the action. You explain just what it is that you did in order to move towards a result. And the result is your outcome. So because of this situation, I took this action, and the positive result was this outcome. And that's what the situation, action, result format is, or challenge, action, result, or the other formats as well. So I've got a couple of examples. Okay. You might have on your resume, I am proficient in expediting the month-end close process. So if you are a finance person or accounting person and you worked in an accounting or finance department, you probably did close the books or worked on the project to close the books each month at your company so that they can do their monthly reporting, or quarterly or annual as well. And so people would expect, if you're in a financial planning and analysis role, that you should be proficient in expediting the month-end process. And so how does this differentiate you from the other people? Well, if they didn't say this, of course, then you have a skill they don't have. But this doesn't really tell why or how or demonstrate that you really understand it. So if we use the SAR format, here's the situation. Challenged with a long month-end close process. So at your company, it took a long time to close the monthly books. And so that's what the situation is, right? I reorganized my team's end-of-month work time into 2 shifts. So you're in a team environment. It's something that's not in the first bullet point about I'm proficient in expediting the month-end close. And you've reorganized the team's end-of-month work time into 2 shifts. And you could talk more about that when you get through this bullet point, this discussion point. Did you change it into 2 8-hour shifts? Or maybe one group started 2 hours early in the morning and the other group ended 2 hours later to get an extra 4 hours on the workday. Doing so put more staff hours into this process, reducing the organization's end-of-month close time by 2 days. That's the result. So your situation was that you have a long month-end close process. The action that you took was you adjusted your team's work time during that month-end close time, and you were able to reduce the month-end close by 2 days. Your company was able to report its financials that much faster. And that could be very powerful, especially if it's a publicly traded company where Wall Street wants that information very, very quickly. So kind of take a look at this, the difference between the first bullet point, which is maybe fine on a resume for some people, but this other bullet point that really talks about just how it is you're good at the month-end close process. So no questions so far. Nice quiet group today, so certainly feel free. Now, one question I often get, or I used to get when I first started doing this presentation, can I give another example of a situation, action, result? So recently I've added another one. So there is another situation, action, result example, a little bit different situation. I'm effective at resolving team conflicts and issues, right? A lot of managers like to say, team managers like to say, I resolve team conflicts, I resolve conflicts and issues. Okay, you're kind of expected to do that. Here's one. When I led a team project, 2 of the team members got into an argument over workload. There's the situation. 2 of the people that work for you started arguing. And they were arguing about their workload or their work assignments. I arranged a meeting so we could all discuss how to adjust the team's work assignments. So you now talked about that you put a team meeting together. This made everyone on the team happier and more productive. So this shows that you had a situation, and staffing situations can be very tricky for a lot of people. And so this talked about not just that you're good at resolving team conflicts, but the approach that you took, a real life example. This is hard to challenge. In fact, in an interview, these sort of stories become very important because the hiring people will want to know more. Tell me more. What caused the argument over workload? Why do you think that was there? And tell me more about the impact of the meeting or the discussion points of the meeting. Your manager is going to know these things. So again, a difference between a single line bullet point that might be in your resume to putting this multi-line. Now, of course, this, at least from the way it's expressed here, this is 4 lines across instead of 1 line. So some people say, well, my resume may get longer. Yeah, so what? You know, there's no rule that a resume has to be 1 page or has to be 2 pages. So you can certainly make it a little bit longer because you have some very relevant information. LinkedIn, that's less of a concern because you just scroll up and down. You don't really see pages. Or maybe what you do is you put 2 SARs instead of 4 single line bullet points because they're just more relevant. So if you really want to stick to your 2-page or the whatever size is important to you, you can do it that way. Oh, an intermission. So any questions at this point? Any thoughts, concerns? And you can quickly unmute yourself. We're not a very big, let's see what's it. Nothing in chat. You could, of course, write your questions in chat, and I'll go check on them once in a while.
Dave, I wondered, as you're trying to check yourself out, what do you think about having your significant other try to do that for you or to you?
I'm sorry, to check out what?
Well, you're going to want to do a, how shall I say it, a
To help
test.
you with your assessment.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a bit about that. I think you certainly
Okay.
want to have the opinion of other people, but my opinion about having their opinion, you don't want somebody who is very close to you, someone that just knows you really well. The challenge you may have is you may not get a very objective opinion because they just love and care about you so much. Oh, John, you're perfect the way you are. Don't worry about it. And you're really going to be better off if you have coworkers or people that you've worked with professionally, or your manager, former managers, or somebody else that knows you a little bit more at an arm's length and knows you a bit professionally.
You know, I'm surprised with the number of opportunities folks have in sessions like this, how few takers there are in what's a relatively safe environment where you could get that variety of opinions.
You know, you could also, that's true, you can go to any of these job seeker support groups, and if you've become a little friendly with someone, reach out and ask that person, maybe meet them, you know, at a coffee shop and have that honest discussion and agree to help each other. You know, you are not yet best friends, you don't have that real close intimacy, so someone can be a bit more objective. You can also form your own little work group. So here, groups like ours can have 20, 30, 40 people. They can get quite large, but you can have your own work group of 2, 3, 4 people where you all work closely together. Maybe another idea. Yeah, thanks, John. Any other questions? There's another intermission in a few minutes, and of course, we'll have plenty of time at the end of the program.
David,
Yeah.
I have a question. You talked about needed skills for the interviewer. You have any suggestions on finding out what they really need besides the job description? How to go about finding it?
So the job description is actually a pretty good place, assuming that they wrote the thing properly. So, you know, they're going to talk about in the first couple of bullet points the skills that they need and are looking for. So, you know, I would start with that. Another place you can do is you can maybe reach out and find somebody who works at the company. Maybe through your network, you can find someone and say, I'm interested in interviewing, or I've got an interview coming up with that company. This is what they're saying. What is your opinion? You know, you can find other places as well. Glassdoor. Glassdoor is kind of a funny one because it's an opportunity for people to write their opinions about the companies. Now, you do get probably mostly the people that are unhappy, or a greater percentage, but you may pick up some nuggets that are there. Look at the company's website, see what they're into, see the projects that are going on, the products that they're selling. You may have some insight into it from that perspective as well.
Just in addition to that, Dave, remember on Glassdoor, there are jobs there too.
Sure. Absolutely. So a lot of these sites that are helpful to you do have their own or links to job boards. Yep, so you can look there. Now, it's a little hard to look at other companies that are in the same industry to find out if all the needs that you see in a job description or from another company are going to match exactly the one in the company that you're looking for, but you could probably get a little bit of information there. Look at some of the companies that serve the company. So if it's a company that is in manufacturing of certain, let's say, computer equipment, just to make up something, you may want to look at companies that manufacture components and see what they do and learn something from them. So you can do a little research there. So you might be able to go down the logistics chain a little bit. Okay, well, let's move along. But of course, as we do, we'll have time for questions throughout the program and of course our next intermission. And some of you may remember when you went to the movies, there was an intermission or maybe a Broadway show. So that's kind of why I did the curtain things. So there are basically two types of important sets of skills. There are hard skills and there are soft skills. And we're going to talk about both of those, and you're going to want to promote both, certainly. And the hard skills, this is really your technical knowledge. This is the stuff you really trained for. This is the hands-on experience that you've gathered through working professionally or through your education. And so it's the tools you use, the products you use, those are the knowledge that you have from working. Those are your hard skills. Maybe if you work in the retail industry, you know how to use a point of sale system, and there's different ones that are available. And of course, if you're looking for a job where you're going to highlight the point of sale system, but your only experience is a national cash register that you wind up until the drawer opens up, that is an old hard skill. So you're going to want to make sure that your hard skills are current. Maybe you've worked as an accountant or in financial planning. You may be very proficient in Excel. So that would be a hard skill, using Excel. You've studied a foreign language, or maybe you speak a foreign language at home, or you're very proficient. That's a hard skill. So you may want to look for jobs where you can leverage that skill. One friend of mine is Japanese. She works at a Japanese American company. So she's able to speak with the Japanese staff and managers very efficiently, as well as the English only speaking staff and managers. So having a foreign language skill is very handy. And there are also soft skills, and these are the non-technical skills. These aren't the skills that we use to get our work done, but these are the skills that demonstrate how we do our work, how we are effective and efficient in working. So they're a little bit different. These are not usually taught in the classroom. Most people are not taught how to interview people. Most people aren't taught things that are the soft type of skills, how to resolve conflicts. People aren't usually taught that in school. There are seminars for that, but companies don't train for that. It really comes from your work experience. It also makes you very successful in the workplace because it helps demonstrate just how effective you're using your hard skills and the ways you've accomplished your assignments. So you may want to focus on some of the skills like, have you proved yourself to be a team player? Just don't say you're a team player, and that's fine, but show how and why you're a team player, right? Think about that second SAR example that we did, or how you resolved conflict with coworkers, again, in that second SAR. How you adapt to unexpected challenges, right? When someone comes to and says, hey, we've got an urgency, you've got to pivot right now. Do you stay stuck and say, no, that's not part of the plan? Or how did you accommodate that? So those are soft skills, accommodating and doing things in how you're getting the work done rather than the tools that you're using. So focus on soft skills very strongly on your profiles, in your resume, and in your job interview. And you want to look beyond some of your hard skills. Remember that. Tell me about yourself discussion right at the beginning. Some of your hard skills may be outdated. It's not uncommon, because a lot of times what happens is companies put tools in place to get the work done. The workers learn them and use them, but they don't update them regularly. They're just kind of happy that the thing works and they don't want to spend money right now. So some of the tools and programs and hard skills that you have may become outdated, may be old, but you're going into a marketplace where and competing against people that have more current skills. So examples, some of your soft skills might be teamwork, how well you work with other people, how coordinated you are, not just the fact that you filled out a spreadsheet, but how you got a team involved in working together. Your presentation and communication skills, maybe you have skills of communicating with coworkers, working with other people in the organization, other departments, working with the senior managers and communicating with them, getting your ideas across, not rambling. And you could talk about those. Those are a soft skill. Time management, how well you are at getting projects done in the time frame that you're given or the time frame that you've promised. So you will want to talk about and highlight some of your time management skills. Your data analysis, the approach you take to data analysis, not just that you have a calculator or Excel or some of the financial planning tools or anything else that's out there, but your approach to solving and resolving these analytical problems. People want to understand how efficient you can be and how good you can be in using the tools, and your soft skills will show how well you use those tools. And professional development. What are things that you've done to improve yourself, gotten better, classes that you've taken, things like that. Those are examples of some soft skills that you really want to promote and highlight in addition to, or maybe in lieu of, some of your hard skills. And soft skills are also most of your transferable skills. If your hard skills are outdated, you can't talk about and highlight it a whole lot, because you're going to be bringing that old skill to make that new company more efficient and effective. Remember the elevator pitch at the beginning, and your hiring manager just may not see that that makes sense to them. But you talk about your soft skills and your transferables, as transferable skills become very important. They tend not to go out of date as easily. So soft skills are skills that can be transferred easily from one job to another. Some people even call them portable skills because of how easily they can be taken from one to another place. And they really help more strongly position your future value from your prior experiences. And you do so anytime you're job hunting. So it doesn't matter the context, but any new job that you're taking, certainly jobs in a different industry. If you're changing or looking to change industries, some of the hard skills you have may not be directly applicable, but soft skills are easily applicable and taken with you to the new job. Maybe you're changing role or position. You're looking to get a more senior role. You were a worker in the last role, but you've got really strong skills that really demonstrate how you can be a manager right now, or from a manager to a senior manager, or running a team. So soft skills are really helpful for that. Hard skills, really not so much for that. And certainly, as I've mentioned, your hard skills are becoming outdated. So you really want to focus on your transferable and your soft skills in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, in your interview situation. Here's kind of a list. This is by all means not the be all and end all of what hard skills and soft skills are. But typically when I do a presentation like this, people will say, can you give me some examples of our soft skills? Can you give me some examples of hard skills? And to be fair, this list of hard skills tends to be very tech oriented. It doesn't matter. You can have hard skills certainly that are not technology, but I just found this was a good list to show. But more important than the hard skills here are the soft skills. So take a look at that on the left. Remember, you can download this slide deck a little bit later today, and or take a screenshot if you'd like right now, so you can get this entire list a little later today. So once our presentation is done later, and we're going to hang around the meeting room after, as we always do. Once that's all done, I'll make the slide deck available through our website. Excuse me. And another intermission. Any other thoughts or questions from where we are right now? So, yep, if you do, and let's see if there's anything in chat. And here's an interesting, I know Alex has said this a number of times before. He's written it down, and if he's written it down, it must be true. There's a saying, we select for skills, but we hire for personality. Yes, the hard skills get you the interview, but the soft skills are the differentiator. So it's like Alex has a very similar opinion to what we've been talking about so far. So thank you, Alex. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay.
David, one question. I know all of our education on the professional development tab on the website. In terms of talking about
the education and professional development tab on the website. Which website?
Is that we talked about? Yeah. In terms of like learning other skills and things. Is there anything in there for that?
In this presentation?
No, on the website itself.
On the PSG of Mercer County website?
Right. And then we have some things about training on there somewhere.
Yeah, so there, oh, I see. Yeah, there is a tab. So on the main, any page, there's a menu on the top. There's a tab called Professional Development, and you can click on
Okay.
that. And then there are a few links at the bottom, and one is called e-learning. And if you click on the e-learning tab, a page opens. I forgot the exact number. I think we have 87 links to 87 different e-learning websites. So you can go take a look at that. So you may find some places where you can learn some additional skills. Certainly you can learn hard skills for some of the tools, and I'm sure there's training for soft skills. Now, not all of those websites and links are free, but a lot of them are. Some of them are, instead of a subscription, an individual class. So you can just take the one class or the two classes that you want. And by the way, in an interview situation, if you've got the question, so what have you been doing since you've lost your job, the last job? Well, you could answer honestly and say, well, of course, I've been job hunting. That's a very honest answer. A more powerful one, and maybe this is what Vance is alluding to, is I've been taking classes. I've been studying such and such. And that shows that you're really improving upon yourself. Hiring managers, companies like that you're really moving forward. Yeah, thanks, Vance.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we will get past this intermission. And this time later, of course, at the end, or if a bullet point comes up, you want to ask a question, feel free to do so. So among the places that will help you with your skills, with your self-assessment, look at some of your old performance reviews. Actually, I've got a file cabinet right off to my right here that has, I guess, all of my performance reviews, probably since around 2000 for the company I work for. I'm due to throw them out, so I should probably throw them out the next time my township has a paper recycling day. I won't have a need for them much further. But look at your old performance reviews. It tells you how your managers have appraised you for your past performance. And it shows you on a year-by-year basis. So you can see improvements and changes and growth, and gives you context of some of the skills that you've earned and used over your years. It's a good indicator of your professional skills, your hard skills, and your soft skills. Because if your manager appraised you properly, or in some cases, we appraised ourselves and our manager then just kind of made notes or checked it off, really shows at that point in time. You may have forgotten some of the things and skills that you've learned, some of the ones that you've used. This is a great place to go back and remind yourself. Also, pay attention if any weaknesses were brought up or areas of improvement in addition to your strengths, because you can, first of all, answer the question, tell me about one of your weaknesses. A lot of managers like to ask that question. You may have forgotten that your manager once appraised you on this and how you improved. So you can talk about how you had a weakness that your manager brought to your attention and what it is that you did to improve upon it. So not just looking at your strengths, but looking at the areas that you've improved. And think about not only the improvements that you've made over time, but why you made them, and list them as SARS. Use that storybook example again, and it'll be able to tell a story. Not just I improved my Excel skills, but how you did it. That you took a class and you've applied it on a project. Maybe that's what you did and really improved. Right? So you want to look at the improvements you've made over time. This is going to John's earlier question. Get feedback from other people, because they may remember things about you that you don't. Also, they absolutely, at least if they're not the most closest people to you, they can look at you a bit more objectively than you are. It's also very impressive to have endorsements or feedback from other people. It's like having a reference. So if anyone's ever said, do you have a reference? And you could say, oh yeah, there's this guy, David, I used to work with. He's my reference. So you want to get feedback from others. The people who can give you honest feedback on performance are people that essentially you've worked with. Clients, if you've worked with clients, or coworkers or staff that you've worked with from other departments. Certainly your managers, they had to actively appraise your work. And your immediate coworkers, people on your team. These are people that know you professionally and can talk to you and can give you feedback. Good sources of encouragement, but poor sources of feedback are your loved ones. So the people that, your significant other or spouse, people that are in your house, certainly your kids are not good examples. If your kids are young, then as a parent, you're terrific. If your kids are teenagers, then as a parent, you stink. It's just the way kids are. Don't ask the kids. So these are people that want you and love you the most. They may also give you direction and suggestion that aren't really the best for you professionally. They have no ill intention in mind. It's just that they can't be as objective for you as you need. So think about the people you know professionally. Those are the people that can give you the strongest, honest, professional feedback. Less so than the people that you love and care about you the most. They're good sources of encouragement. You may want to consider online assessment tools. And there are some that are out there. I don't have an opinion as to which is the best or that you should use. We recently had Ed Samuel give a presentation 2 weeks ago. He talked about a tool that he gives. You may want to reach out to Ed again to see if he can be of some help to you. Many employers are asking candidates to take assessments anyway. I don't know how much they do or don't rely on them. They must be beginning to rely on them. I don't know how deeply they look into the results of what the tests are saying, but they are looking for them. So it may help you understand what some of the hiring managers are saying. If you take a behavioral assessment, they may be used to predict behaviors in response to situations. So you may say, yeah, I'm good at managing people, but if you take a behavioral assessment, it may show you're not as good as you think you are. So at least you can have a more honest opinion, assuming you, of course, answer the questions honestly. Here are a couple that are more behavior oriented. They may be helpful to you. The caliper profile, Myers-Briggs. Skills assessments, you may want to look at those to see just how strong you are in certain hard skills. Clifton Strengths Assessment is one that's been around a while. Some people know it by the old name Strengths Finders. That may be one that'll be important. So take your own assessment to see how you're evaluated. You can search for these assessment tools online. There usually is a fee. You could speak to some career coaches. They may have resources as well to guide you in that direction. Some career coaches have their own assessment tools like Ed Samuels. Some have used these as well. You may talk to a life coach or a business coach. Those are also people that use tools as well. And so again, you may pay for taking the test and their assessment, but the information may just be very relevant. And if you pay a few bucks for one of these and you land faster, it was well worth the investment. Also, check out job postings for the jobs that you're interested in. You will have a comprehensive list of your skills and some of the stories in using them. So you can get those from the job postings. You can understand the skills that are current, that are important. And then you may now take those skills and think of the stories that you have. Look at them specifically from the organizations in the industries and the roles of interest. So if you're an accountant and you look at accounting roles, but not an industry that you're interested in, you may not get as specific information for your needs as within the same position in an industry that you're interested in. So make sure you have a more targeted search. And it'll begin to stimulate you a little because you'll compare what you're reading to what you have on your profiles, whether it's LinkedIn or your resume or social media, or if you have a website. So you may have ideas for changes because you're going to want to then change your profiles to be reflective of what the market is looking for. And so now you'll see which are the ones that you should highlight more strongly. So if you're a programmer and you're highlighting COBOL and Assembler and PL1 because that's what you were good at, glad that you were good at it, but those may not be skills that are needed right now. You may want to look at more current skills, and those are the ones you're going to want to promote. So job postings are great places to get that kind of information. And visit your resume and visit your public profiles. See how you are perceived, right? Try it again. Look at yourself objectively. Review your resume and public profile, your LinkedIn, job boards, your website content, social media, wherever you are posting information about you, right? It's a little harder to find information about you in other places that are outside of your control. If you find any, you're going to see what's posted there. If there's anything that's negative from other people, be prepared to talk to it. but you're going to update your profiles, everything within your control. You're going to fine tune it based on your career assessment, whether you've taken the assessment tests, when you've looked at job boards, when you've asked other people, and you're going to make sure that the information that you're gathering from that assessment is in your profile, so that your profile is as current and reflective of the needs and the desire in the marketplace. And you'll highlight those most pertinent to the jobs that you're seeking. And each resume, you may, and I say that on purpose, each resume, you will have a version of the resume specific to the job that you're seeking. Your LinkedIn resume profile may be talking about a broader sense of skills. But if you have, I'll just make up a number, 8 key skills on your LinkedIn resume profile, your resume may only highlight 3, 4, or 5 of those because that's what's important for that job. Another version of the resume for another job might have different skills. So just make sure that it's specific. And the internal recruiters, the hiring managers and the HR people, the external recruiters, the people that the recruiting companies can find you someone that matches their position, a lot easier when your skills actually match what they're looking for. So it's gotta be current, and that's what you wanna promote. So as we wrap up, if you don't know what you look for, you can't find what you want, you can't stand out from the other candidates. And you need to absolutely stand out from the others. Remember, in job boards, when you're applying online, which is really a low percentage, it could be 100, 200, up to 250 people for any one position, depending on what it is. You need to be that, that needle in the haystack. You want to identify the skills that you will bring to the employer, to what the employer needs. Don't just talk about what you want to talk about. Hiring is a very selfish and unfair process. You're going to have to talk about what the hiring people are interested in. And so recall your hard skills, recall your soft skills, put them in a list, all your professional experience, write them down, maybe on a legal paper or just write them down on paper on a Word document, get them out there. Recall what others think about you then and now. So former coworkers, whether they're current coworkers, get opinions from those people. And then you can update your resume, your public profiles, your LinkedIn summary with that new reflective information. Those are the skills you're going to want to promote. Those are the skills that are most likely going to get you hired more, and certainly more quickly. Okay, so a little later today, this is where you will find this slide deck and the recording that we're making right now, any of the chat notes that we have. So this is the home page of our website, but that right sidebar there is on every page. And you can see where the arrow is. Now the arrow is not really on their website, it's just on this picture. You click on that link on the right, meeting presentation documents, and that will take you to the page that has all of our meeting presentation documents since late 2013 from any of the presenters and programs we've been allowed to publish. And for the last 2.5 years, we also have video as well for most of those. And we were talking, it was Vance's question, we were talking a little bit earlier about the e-learning website. If you look at the top on the left, it says home, but if you go all the way to the right, it says professional development. Click on professional development, and that's where you'll find the link for e-learning, right there. Okay, any other questions? Or any questions before we wrap up the program today?
Dave, I wonder what you thought about the idea of taking interviews for jobs that may not be exactly what you want.
You know, any opportunity to practice interviewing, I think, is a great thing to do. So, you know, if it's a job that is like kind of in your wheelhouse, but not what you want, or one that will have the opportunity to challenge you, but really a low profile opportunity to really earn that, yeah, go ahead and take that. Or you can ask friends or former coworkers, can you mock interview me? ask me just 2 or 3 tough questions. An interview could be 30 or 60 minutes, but a mock interview might just be 10 or 15 minutes, a few tough questions. So I think that kind of practice could be very strong. Does CIT still offer that?
In fact, yes. But we will be meeting, by the way, tomorrow. And you have to register by 5 o'clock today.
4 o'clock.
Carol, are you still on the?
Yes, it's 4 o'clock today, and it's 4 o'clock Eastern, and the information's in the chat.
Yeah, John, you're not wrong. It's 5 o'clock Atlantic time, 4 o'clock Eastern time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So if you're in the Caribbean, you have until 5 o'clock.
Right. I think to the point I'm really trying to make is, I have a landed list of folks who've landed jobs and say they'll help, and there's easily a dozen people on that list who got jobs out of interviews where they were created for them because people can see what you're like, and they may be very interested in that capability, chemistry, whatever you want to call it. You just don't, in my humble opinion, know where the next one's coming from. So when you say, I'm not going to talk to UPS, I don't like Brown, really unfortunate.
It's funny you mentioned UPS. What I think about them, they certainly have a good reputation for package delivery. They're one of the companies that typically prefers to hire from within. They hire entry level and younger people and promote and hire up. So if you get the opportunity to interview and get into UPS, there may be an opportunity to have a longer career. So just keep that in mind. Some companies are just known for doing that. I see Weldon has a question posted in chat. Do you have any suggestions for differentiating the hard and soft skills noted on the resume from those mentioned in the cover letter submitted for the same job? So, and you may want to unmute, Weldon, because I'm curious of the intent of your question. I don't know that I would differentiate hard and soft skills on my resume from the cover letter. I think
certainly the cover letter is not the resume, and the resume is not your LinkedIn profile. So you are the same professional, and you're applying for one position. You don't want your cover letter to be a direct repeat of what's in your resume, but still it needs to be relevant to the job description itself. Yeah. So if there is anyone who has any suggestions as to how to communicate essentially the same points in a different way so that your resume doesn't look like it's just a mirror reflection of the cover letter, that would be helpful. And of course, the cover letter is so much shorter than the resume. Sometimes
the cover letter gives you the opportunity to target something specific in a bit more of a narrative. And what I am trying to show you here is even the bullet points in your resume can be a little bit of a story or a narrative by using the SARS story. And your resume may have several years of experience with lots of stories that you have, and you may want to target one specifically. Or your cover letter may talk about not only your skill and how you're a match, but why you're so interested in this organization. Your resume may not talk about why you're interested. It'll talk about why you could be a match, but you may want to talk about your interests, professional and personal interests, and why you have a connection. So you can still talk about maybe 1 or 2 of those skills that are already in your resume to reiterate it, to reinforce it, and as a narrative, or you can talk about something about more that's not quite in your resume.
Very good, and thank you.
I'm a fan of, as long as you have the opportunity to upload a cover letter or mail a cover letter with a resume, absolutely do it. And
that's right.
It wouldn't surprise me if 50% or even more of hiring managers don't read them. It doesn't matter. So you wrote one and they didn't read it. But the ones that are going to read it are going to take value out of it. And it doesn't matter which hiring manager you talk to. Some will say they read them and some will say they ignore them. And if you're using an applicant tracking system or an online system for uploading documents, and they only allow you to upload one document, well, clearly that needs to be your resume. If you also want to upload your cover letter, attach it to the bottom of your resume. Don't attach it to the top of your resume to introduce your resume. So it shouldn't be page 1 is the cover letter and pages, let's say 2 through 4 are your resume. Put the resume up front and let them scroll down and stumble across the cover letter. And the reason why is hiring managers have a poor attention span. The reason why, not because they're stupid people or unintelligent, they have so much to do. If they open up the document and the first page is a cover letter and they're expecting a resume, they may close it before they scroll. But if the first page is the resume and you grab them with the summary, they'll start scrolling down to read it, and they may stumble across the cover letter. They may or may not read it. That's up to them. So if you're only uploading one document, append the cover letter. Don't append the resume. Any other questions or thoughts before we wrap up? Anything else come to mind? Anything of interest?
If I could just ask a general question for the entire audience, are any of you asking for informational interviews, and what kind of experience are they having getting them? Hello?
It was much easier before COVID, so.
You know, that's funny, and I'm surprised to hear that because I'm not job hunting anymore, I'm independent, but I would ask for informational interviews, and I was pretty successful. I got a number of them. I never had them in person. It was always a phone call. We didn't do Zoom at the time, but with those. So it's surprising to hear if you're having challenges getting them, even because of COVID, because my experience was it's more efficient even for the other person you're interviewing with to just have a phone call or a Zoom conversation. So what do you think's causing that, Weldon?
Causing what?
You said it was much easier before COVID.
Yes, it was much easier in COVID because I think some things that people used to do in person, they have to do virtually more often. So the calendar for their virtual conversations just got very, very, very crowded. So what you might have been able to do over the telephone for 20 minutes pretty easily 4 years ago was a little more of a challenge nowadays. But the best information interviews I had were always in person, and 2 of them actually led to actual job offers and all.
Oh,
So
terrific.
I mean, I'm still getting informational interviews, but it's not as frequently as before, and the meetings themselves are not as productive now as they had been. So hopefully that will change before the quote recession hits, if it does hit.
I appreciate you sharing that, because since I don't really do information interviews, now I do reach out to prospective clients, so it's kind of similar. But I appreciate you telling, because I don't job hunt any longer, so I don't have that direct perspective. So thank you. Robin is asking, does an informational interview equal networking? Maybe. I think what happens is networking leads to the informational interview, but it is certainly a way of strengthening that new connection that you have, because now you're putting a voice or a face to the email or the phone call. So it's not directly one-on-one networking, but you do leverage your network. You do networking skills to find the hiring person or someone in the company that you can have an effective informational interview, even if it's just for 15 minutes.
And I would think with the job market being the way it is out there, pre-recession or whatever is coming, but it's our marketplace. People are interested in filling jobs and having trouble doing it. You should be trying to and particularly if they're companies that you're interested in, you should be trying to get in front of them, strut your stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. Yeah, it's like, typical of springtime. Spread your feathers and find someone, attract somebody. And so it's kind of what we're doing. Yeah. All right.